This week on At the Movies with Ebert and Roeper, Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson in Fool's Gold.
We played 30 cities, we rocked them all.
Vince Vaughn's Wild West comedy show.
I look like a clown.
Mark Lawrence and Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins.
He started it.
Hard part is going without the sex.
And Richard, I know you've been waiting your whole life for this one. It's Paris Hilton in The Hottie and the Nottie.
I'm gonna get my PhD and I'm gonna spend the rest of my life writing books.
Where are you gonna get the tuition money?
By selling my boat, which belongs to me.
Come on, Tess, you're not gonna hit me.
Our first movie is Fool's Gold. Forget about Fool's Gold, we're talking Oscar Gold. Not really. They could have called this one How to Lose My Interest in 10 Minutes. I'm Richard Roeper.
And I'm A.O. Scott from the New York Times. Very nice to be back here, Richard.
Tony, I do apologize for some of the movies, but we got some good ones as well on this show.
You didn't make them.
No, I didn't. That's right. What am I apologizing for? Fool's Gold is so predictable that seeing the trailer is essentially the same as seeing the movie. In fact, it's better because you save $9 and about 90 minutes out of your life. Now, Tony, you probably remember this. There was a time when Matthew McConaughey was actually going to be an actor of some merit.
Do tell.
These days, he seems content to be the leading himbo of his generation. He plays Finn, a shaggy-maned, irresponsible, thrill-seeking treasure hunter who rarely wears a shirt or dries off.
Finn is a genius at exactly 3 things. Treasure salving, finding money for treasure salving, and one other thing.
What other thing?
I don't want to talk about it.
And that's Kate Hudson as Tass, Finn's exasperated ex-wife. They're always exasperated when they're ex-wives. Think these two crazy kids might still be in love?
He marked it with heads down.
And this guy built a church around it.
It's in the cemetery.
Now, no matter how precarious the situation, Tess and Finn always find time for some lame banter.
Airspeed, altitude, pedals, or the rudder. Check.
How do you know what to do?
You know, PlayStation.
Oh,
Fool's Gold alternates between a frothy romantic comedy starring 2 tanned, good-looking, underachieving actors and an indecipherable and sometimes too violent treasure hunt. Compared to the mystery here, National Treasure Book of Secrets is the Maltese Falcon. I didn't care about the backstory. I couldn't be bothered to follow the twists and turns. The subplot with Donald Sutherland and his Paris Hilton-esque daughter is dull. The hip-hop villain named Big Bunny is a clown. And the endless scenes of McConaughey's shirtless preening are like something out of a Saturday Night Live routine making fun of this guy. It's a terrible movie.
Nice belly buttons, though, didn't you think?
Well, you know...
I don't really actually remember anything except for their 2 golden torsos kind of frolicking.
The golden
in the
torsos
surf.
would be the Academy Awards, sir, and they will not be handing any out to this piece of garbage.
No, I don't even know where to start or how quickly to end, because this is one of those movies. It just seems also just thrown together from all of these plot elements that don't really belong together, and that are just, it's a kind of big stew of action, romance, comedy, but it's not funny, it's not thrilling, it's not clever, it's just so tired.
Well, that's the thing that I find insulting about it, because you have some talented actors here, and you have people like Ray Winstone, I mean, who show up and you're thinking, what is, okay, it's cash a paycheck
And what
time.
accent is he speaking in, by the way?
I don't know.
Is he supposed to be some kind
Nobody's doing a good job in this film, and McConaughey in particular, you know, it's such a lazy performance and such a lazy role, and really, okay, we get it, you're in shape. Don't you want to make a movie that has some merit? It's not even good as just a light piece of entertainment.
But there's also no sexual tension, no
None.
chemistry between them, no thought that there might actually be some obstacle to their reunion.
It was pointless. I hated it. How about another movie?
Next movie is In Bruges, which opened this year's Sundance Film Festival. It's a nifty, if uneven, little thriller, and kind of like a blend of David Mamet and Alfred Hitchcock, but played with mostly Irish accents and set against the charming medieval architecture of Bruges, the Belgian city that gives the picture its atmosphere and its name. Not that all the visitors are so charming.
Guidebook says it's a must-see.
Well, you lot ain't going up there.
Pardon me? Why?
I mean, it's all windy stairs. I'm not being funny.
What exactly are you trying to say?
What exactly am I trying to say? These are a bunch of elephants.
Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson play Ray and Ken, a pair of hitmen sent to Bruges by their boss, a Cockney mobster played by Voldemort himself, Ralph Fiennes. Ken finds the picturesque town delightful, while Ray thinks it's rubbish, and only reluctantly agrees to accompany his older partner on sightseeing tours.
Ray, you're about the worst tourist in the whole world.
If I'd grown up on a farm and was retarded, Bruges might impress me, but I didn't, so
It doesn't. Some of what happens here, the murder of a child, for instance, doesn't quite fit with the glib, knowing tone of the picture. And it's also true that the philosophical, super-articulate hitmen have been a staple of indie-minded genre movies, at least since Samuel Jackson and John Travolta discussed foot massages and European fast food in Pulp Fiction. But Farrell and Gleason bring an engaging, off-kilter rhythm to their characters. Carter Burwell's score adds a nice note of elegance to the mayhem. And though it didn't entirely work for me, I have to say that on the whole, In Bruges is, as they say in the guidebooks, worth a visit. It's in limited release, so keep an eye out.
I say make an extra effort to see it. I like it more than you did, Tony. I thought it was fantastic. I like your comparison to Pulp Fiction, because watching the movie, I thought these are the two most entertainingly eccentric, interesting hitmen since Jules and Vincent in Pulp Fiction nearly 15 years ago. I thought Brendan Gleeson in particular, like a career performance here. He was so interesting and so thoughtful. Ray Fiennes great in kind of a extended cameo. And Colin Farrell, speaking of Matthew McConaughey, he's another guy who kind of lost his way for a while. There was all this hype, and then he, kind of, some movies good, some not so good. I thought he was great. I think this role is probably tailor-made for him.
Well, and he plays
really charming guy who also has a lot of problems.
Yeah, and he plays well with Gleason. I mean, because they're very different rhythms. So Gleason is sort of, stolid and thoughtful, soulful, older guy, and he plays really well off of Farrell's energy and his tendency to overact and be a little frantic. Also, I think the structure of this is really interesting. It's by a well-known playwright, Martin McDonagh. It's his first feature film, his first short film, won an Oscar. Quite a talented guy, and has a real knack for storytelling. So this starts kind of slow and a little dreamy, and you don't know quite what this is. Is this just a sort of a tourist documentary about the city of Bruges?
And I think what's going to happen? Bruges being a character, which is good because we haven't seen it in a lot of movies, so that's new for most viewers. The subplot about this Euro trash movie that's being made, this artsy stuff, is fun and interesting. And you're right, it's very dark. I mean, the comedy here at times is pitch black, and then there are moments that there's no comedy whatsoever. It's just pure violence and tragedy. But you mentioned the score. I thought that perfectly fitted. This is one of my favorite movies. I know we're early in the year, but one of my favorite movies so far this year, definitely.
Fair enough. Later in the show, Paris Hilton, speaking of great, is an actress. Well, sort of an actress. Okay, not an actress at all. She's in some movie called The Hottie and the Nottie.
Nate Cooper.
Next, Vince Vaughn and friends put on a Wild West comedy show.
Every award season, America's most trusted critics tell it like it is.
We haven't agreed yet.
But this year, the only place you'll see their picks is on the internet.
We're inside a computer.
Join Richard Roeper and guest host Michael Phillips for If We Pick the Winners.
Richard's pick is...
available on atthemoviestv.com, the online home of Ebert and Roeper.
Do you feel that in Swingers, I know you got credit for writing the lines, and this may not be an appropriate place to say it, but a lot of the stuff that you wrote was really stuff that I said. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of it was stuff you said, but you didn't write it.
I didn't write it down on a piece of paper, but I wrote it up here and made you laugh with it.
Anybody could have done your part and scored.
Some big-name stars and some complete unknowns hit the road in Vince Vaughn's Wild West comedy show. This is basically a road trip concert documentary, but instead of music, we get stand-up routines and sketch comedy. Vaughn leads a group of young comics on a Gonzo RV tour in the fall of 2005. They play 30 gigs in 30 nights. He also enlists the help of some familiar faces, such as Jon Favreau and Justin Long.
I always carry a scene from Swingers with me, and I'm going to have Justin do Vince's part. Seriously? Yeah, I think you're going to do it, and you're going to show Vince that anybody, Vince is like a wind-up monkey with the cymbals. It just keeps banging them together, banging them together.
Who's the big winner here tonight at the casino, huh? Mikey? Mikey's the big winner, Mikey.
The crowds are coming out, of course, to see that Wedding Crashers guy, but on the tour bus and on stage, Vaughn seems to relish the opportunity to be just one of the guys. One of the funnier comics on the tour, I thought, was Ahmed Ahmed.
So last night, this girl comes up to me and she's like, oh my God, you're Egyptian. How mysterious. Make me your Egyptian princess. So I threw a sheet over her head and I told her to be quiet.
Vince Vaughn's Wild West comedy show comes close to wearing out its welcome. And if you're not really into the stand-up process as much as I am, you might get a little fidgety, but I am recommending it. I thought there was a lot of funny stuff here, Tony.
Yeah, well, and I can't have anything against a movie that's dedicated to the memory of the great Buck Owens. I have to say, I like this movie more than I probably would have liked seeing one of the shows, and certainly more than I would have liked being stuck in a bus with Vince Vaughn for 30 days. But
wow!
No, I'm not. You look.
It'd be a radio station contest for some people. Be on a bus with Vince for 30 days.
I'm the second biggest Vince Vaughn fan in this room right now. But I think it's interesting for the glimpses backstage, for the characters of these comedians, sometimes more than their actual work. I mean, some of the the material itself seemed to me a little bit stale, a little bit second-rate.
We've seen some of this observational stuff going back for 30 years.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
Order fancy drinks at Starbucks, and men in a club do this, women in a club do that. But just the whole vibe. I just think that being there with these guys and the whole kind of ragged roadshow improvised atmosphere of the movie is really winning. And
well,
I had a good time.
that is interesting, and the Vince Vaughn thing. This was filmed a couple of years ago. Yeah. It's taken a while to get to the theaters, but at the time I think he was either just coming out of or still involved with a very high-profile relationship, and he was becoming a huge movie star. And as I mentioned, you could really see, I think he's just enjoying the fact that he's just kind of a regular guy who likes hanging out with regular guys, and that's not an affectation. I think that's who he really is, and that stuff is interesting.
Absolutely, and he comes across. I mean, he's in a way, the guy you see in those movies, you start to think, well, that's really the guy. Yeah. That's sort of interesting.
Good stuff. Later in the show, Martin Lawrence continues his string of very subtle comedies in Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins.
And speaking of subtlety, next, Paris the Heiress stars in The Hottie and the Nottie.
You remember Jan?
My God.
Do it. Oh, I'm doing it. Wow, this is going to be awkward. Oh, my God.
All right, looking at movies now in theaters, Over Her Dead Body was DOA. I didn't recommend Untraceable, but I did like Cloverfield. But, Tony, I think right now a lot of people are also catching up on the Oscar nominees that are still playing in theaters. Juno now over $100 million. It's actually the biggest hit of all the Best Picture nominees.
It is. It's going to be the highest grossing going in. And also There Will Be Blood, which is doing quite well. And I think is a movie that a lot of people are starting to discover. And, we have the shows this time of the year when there's just all of these terrible movies, and it's
mostly terrible movies, right?
To look back at November and December, and there are a lot of stuff that came out then that people are still getting a chance to see.
And I'm still hearing from a lot of people who are catching up with No Country for Old Men, and some people love the ending, and some people hate the ending, but go see the movie.
Yes. Same with There Will Be Blood. The ending divides everybody.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of cinematic masterpieces, there are many things that you could call Paris Hilton: heiress, celebutante, and some other words that I'm too much of a gentleman to say out loud. But actress is probably not one of them. And movie seems like an equally inapt description of The Hottie and the Nottie, a horror, not a horror movie, just a horror, that was spared a straight-to-DVD release just to torment me. Yes, I take it personally. The questionable premise of The Hottie and the Nottie is that Ms. Hilton's character, Christabel, is the most desirable woman in all of Los Angeles County. Men are literally falling all over her.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Were you sniffing me?
Now, I will grant that she, like Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson, has a nice belly button, and also that she is, by a slimmer margin than you might think, the most attractive person in this movie. I can hardly think of fainter praise. The skinny goon who falls for her here is Joel David Moore, a prodigiously annoying performer whose character, Nate, has been carrying a torch for Christabel since they were 6 years old. But standing between her and him, between them and bliss, between you and your appetite, is Christabel's BFF, June Fig, the Nottie, a hygienic disaster played by Christine Lakin.
I've made a promise to myself that I'm not going to date anyone again until June has someone special in her life.
Wow, that is admirable. But that could be a very, very long time.
It's stupidly written, horrendously directed, and barely even acted at all. On a cinematic par with a public service documentary about gum disease or toenail fungus or chronic acne. Come to think of it, that's pretty much what this movie is. And I would rather suffer from all of those ailments at once than see even a frame of The Hottie and the Nottie again.
It is excruciatingly, painfully, horribly, terribly awful in ways that you just actually did a great job of describing, Tony.
Thank you. Now, we agree.
Nobody in this movie, I think, really should have a career in movies. None of the actors, nobody who was involved with it. I think you can go into any dinner theater in any small town in America, kidnap everybody off the stage and put them in a movie, and they'd be much better than this.
Well, and the writing and the direction. This is the kind of movie where the idea of wit is that you have a character talking on the phone and the camera pulls back and you see that he's sitting on the toilet.
Just horrible. And even even though, you know, it's apparently trying to give us some sort of message about, well, you know, maybe the Nottie can be a hottie. Nobody gets interested until she gets her makeover, so there really isn't anything about finding the inner person.
And it's sort of trying to do something that the Farrelly brothers did much better in Shallow Hal.
Except for Hal remains shallow throughout the movie.
Well,
and on top of everything else, Paris Hilton, the conceit that she's somehow this great beauty, she looks like a porn star after a really long weekend, especially in close-up.
Ouch. Now that's,
I mean, the title alone should keep people away. And Tony, if you'd like a double feature, that would be the cinematic equivalent of waterboarding. Next up is Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. This is a Martin Lawrence alleged comedy with about 4 good laughs and about 112 jokes that fall flat with a loud, embarrassing thud. Lawrence plays trash TV host Roscoe Jenkins. The gorgeous Joy Bryant is the cartoonishly self-involved Bianca. We're told Bianca was a winner on Survivor, but this superficial swizzle stick couldn't outwit, outlast, or outplay a rock. She's an idiot. These two obnoxious semi-celebrities leave the glitz of L.A. for Roscoe's family reunion in the Deep South.
You're an officer here in Mayberry. Come on, what you carry, a flashlight and a baton? I can tell you what, maybe if you're a good old boy, I hire you as my security. Yeah, I got the pull, I can do it. Big ass.
That's Michael Clark Duncan as Otis in one of the countless scenes in which somebody gets punched or kicked or doused in something unpleasant. He's one of about a dozen outstanding actors that are mired in a story that relies heavily on really cheap slapstick gags. The rivalry between Roscoe and Cedric the Entertainer's Clyde is tiresome, childish, and ridiculous. The romantic triangle that includes Roscoe's unrequited high school love is beyond predictable. James Earl Jones looks embarrassed to be playing Roscoe's father. I was embarrassed for him. This is a loud, stupid, cliche-riddled mess.
Well, yes, I agree with you, but I guess I would have to give it a kind of mild non-recommendation, if that makes any sense. I mean, I thought some of the funny stuff, even if it was crude and stupid, was actually kind of funny. I mean, Monique and Mike Epps are pretty talented performers, and they can carry bad material further maybe than it should be carried.
Well, you know, that's right, Tony. And the disappointment here is with the Paris Hilton movie, we don't expect anything. We know it's going to probably be horrible. Here you have, Martin Lawrence could be very funny, and everybody else I mentioned, all very talented. I just wish the material was a little bit elevated.
I mean, what bothered me also was the sentimentality, all of the father-son stuff, the home stuff. It was trying to be crude and vulgar and also warm and sweet at the same time, and it just didn't work to hold those together.
Didn't work. Better stuff in our video segment coming up. 2 Oscar-nominated performances, one of the best documentaries of the year, and 3 other films that are 4 trillion times better than The Hottie and the Nottie. But first, here's a look at what's coming up on next week's show.
What I'd like to know is how you rob a bank without opening any doors.
You know what's really cool? We can just sit here. We don't have to worry about flirting or all the attraction stuff.
This week's video segment is brought to you by Raisinets. Make a deliciously smart choice with Raisinets.
Folks sometimes take me for a nincompoop on account of shabby first impression I make.
Looking at movies new on DVD, 3 films I can recommend for you: The Assassination of Jesse James, The Brave One, and also Across the Universe.
Across the Universe. Well, if you say so.
I like the other 2 a lot better than that. Also, Tony, my favorite film coming out this week on DVD is Gone, Baby, Gone, with Casey Affleck, of course, who's nominated for The Assassination of Jesse James. Very strong here. Amy Ryan nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And I thought Ben Affleck in his first film as a director did a superb job.
Yeah,
really good film.
Really exciting to see his career kind of
I think he's got an absolute career.
Yeah.
You know, he can absolutely have a career as a director for the next 30 years.
The moon landing of July 20th, 1969 is an event that a lot of people take for granted, and younger people don't even know what we're talking about when we say that a man walked on the moon. My video pick this week is In the Shadow of the Moon, a documentary that reminds us in vivid and moving detail just how remarkable and difficult an achievement the first manned flight to the moon was, and how profoundly that journey changed our view of the universe and our own place in it.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that something? We're up on a slope, Joe, and we're looking back down into the valley. That's beautiful. That is spectacular.
This movie, directed by David Sington, combines revealing interviews with some stunning footage from the NASA archives, images of space and of Earth that capture afresh the sense of wonder that greeted those astronauts on their extraordinary adventure. I really thought this was
I thought it was
terrific.
fantastic as well. Great film. So both In the Shadow of the Moon and Gone, Baby Gone will be in stores on Tuesday. We'll be back to recap this week's show right after this. All right, recapping the movies in this week's show. Neither of us can recommend Fool's Gold, The Hottie and the Nottie, or Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, because we're not clinically insane. Tony liked In Bruges. I thought it was near great. It opens in limited release this week, and we're both recommending Vince Vaughn's Wild West comedy show.
And I have to say, people think that our jobs are always glamorous and fun and exciting, but when you have to see movies like some of the ones we talked about this week, I hope people realize what a difficult sacrifice we made.
The Geneva Convention
to keep you away
should
from
outlaw
these movies.
some of this stuff. You are right. Okay, just a reminder that on Wednesday, February 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be conducting a live chat on all things Oscar at the website at themoviestv.com. That's it for this week's show. Until next week, the balcony is closed.
Goodbye storage containers. Hello snack and seal packages. The easiest way to keep your Oreo cookies tasting fresh.
My Bliss? Blistex Complete Moisture. A rush of moisture lips can feel. And it feels great. Discover Bliss. Discover Blistex.
The rhinovirus, a leading cause of the common cold. Why just cover up the symptoms of your cold when you can get over your cold faster with Zicam?
Goodbye storage bags. Hello snack and seal packages. The easiest way to keep your Oreo cookies tasting fresh.